The Able to Care podcast is sponsored by Able Training Support Limited, who build partnerships with organisations to develop confidence and competence in their team to promote positive outcomes for all. Find the link in the description. Hello and welcome to the Able to Care podcast. I'm your host, Andy Baker, and joining me today is Norma Sherwin. So Norma is a nurse. It's over 38 years in the care industry. She's moved through the ranks over a period of time and ended up, as described, falling into the manager role. Nothing she ever wanted to specifically aim for, but then by the sounds of it, she's kind of fallen in love with that a little bit and become quite passionate about it. And now Norma's kind of stepped away from doing direct work and now works predominantly in consultancy, where she is supporting others to kind of get the best practice and improve well-being for themselves, as well as for the people that they care for. So thank you so much for joining me today, Norma.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me. Look forward to it.
That's all right. My pleasure. Yeah. So, obviously, do you want to start off telling us a little bit about your journey, kind of what took you to doing this consultancy work, and kind of why you do that now?
Like I said, I was a nurse first, and nursing was all I ever wanted to do. When I was 4 and 5 years old, which was many years ago, and I used to shave the heads of my dolls and take an arm off and have my own doll hospital, and that was all I ever wanted to do. I was a bit of a rebel at school, so I didn't ever study the right subjects. So when I started working for the government at 16, I went to college to do the qualifications I needed and left home at 18 to become a nurse. Many years later, I was a homeless mum with 3 children, and I ended up working nights in a care home. So I left the hospital side of it as a nurse and went into care home on nights. Then eventually ended up on days as the children grew up, and it was a nurse residential home, and the nursing side got closed. That was my first introduction to politics in care, really, where you actually realise that there's a lot more to it. And some of the nursing clients that have been paying nursing fees now became residential. So I sat in, as they asked me to, sat in the chair of a manager for about 6 weeks while they found another manager. But when I witnessed some of the things that was on in a manager's role and realised what they're actually responsible for, it was a bit scary. Saying that, I went on to run a nursing home in Cheshire, which was absolutely beautiful, and we took it from receivership to outstanding within 3 years, which was a fantastic journey and it wasn't actually a learning curve, it was a more straight up. It was so that was fun. And I learned so much. I had one of the best mentors. The guy that run it was fantastic, and the care was there. I had a traumatic something happened in the family, and they would just like, take 2 weeks off, do what you need to do. And the care was there for me, so I could care for everyone else. And I thought that was all over healthcare. It was a bit naive. So then I went in, cutting the story down, but I ended up working in a few different homes after that. Some of them some of the ones that are inadequate and in a poor state, with poor cultures, and there was a lot of change management and witnessing what was going on. You know, you can change these things. If you look after yourself, if people look after you, you can keep going to look after them. And in the end, I just, I did 22 years in management. The last 5 years, I was on a quality team, and I worked alongside a regional manager who had 9 care homes to look after. And we actually, between us, she did all the worky stuff, and I was like either going in auditing or looking after the people, the managers, and it worked really well. And then we had operational changes, and I thought, I can't do this anymore. I can't go back. They took the care away again. And I thought, I can't go back to that. I can't go back to that beaten with a stick situation. So I left and I opened a room. So I'd had a period of time off work, about 20 months. And I went back to the manager's role of a home that was good for the first time in 25 years. While I was off, they put a new manager in, it became inadequate. When I went back, I had to pick it up again. And I left that one because the culture was not very nice.
Right.
So I left that one. I went to this, like I say, this corporate company, working on a quality team, fabulous. Operational changes, comes back to it and you the big stick. And I thought, I'm out. But the time I was off, I studied Reiki, reflexology, OPA candles, card readings. And I thought, I'm going to leave that now. Healthcare, I'm done. And I'm going to open my room and I'm going to do all these lovely therapies and look after people. So they'll be strong enough to look after themselves. And 5 weeks later, lockdown. So, so during lockdown, I had people ringing me, and I was working with people, and I was chatting to managers at night and talking them through the troubles, and they had the family stuff, the work stuff, and all that was going on. So I decided to do coaching, which was something I always wanted to do, life coaching. So I did coaching, holistic coaching, NLP master practitioner. And then when we could go back to work, I thought, okay, you're an eternal student. What you're going to do with all your experience, all your knowledge, and all these new things. So I opened my own care kit consultancy. And the main aim for me is to care for them that care for others. I have packages for managers, long-term, after coming back from long-term sick, through their induction, because a lot of the time I've actually said it to myself, had it said to me personally, there's the keys, somebody will be in touch. And 3 days later, somebody's phoned up and gone, oh, he's still there? And they've left me to run a home. Well, that's not really handing over a home.
No.
So, and I've seen some really good things and really bad things. What I don't ever want to do is scare people out of healthcare by just talking about bad. But then I don't want to be under some illusion that it's a beautiful, fluffy job. Because all these years later, my granddaughter's now studying healthcare. And I was like, oh, please do nails and hair, love, instead, because I just dread for the future. So my thing now is predominantly virtual. I love being in person with people, though. So I am planning a few workshops, and I've got other things coming up that will be exciting, I hope.
Yeah, we'll definitely have a chat about those as we're going through. But so it sounds like you almost kind of get this consultancy side of things you fell into because you had some connections with managers around the country, and that lockdown time, which I think was an incredibly challenging time for those for managers and care staff generally, wasn't it? So they were calling you up and looking for that additional support and asking questions, and that kind of fell into that mentorship role from that. Yeah. Do you want to tell us a little bit? So, what were the challenges that they were going through at that time period then?
Basically the biggest struggle that I had off both men and women that were speaking to me was, I've got to balance this with my family. I have to balance this thing where I'm seeing these people suffering, missing their families, and I'm looking after them, but now I'm missing my family. Do I take bugs home to my family? What risk is they? And, even like changes in policy, changes in what the companies were telling them to do. I mean, there's that awful phrase, get it done by close of play. Well, there's never a close of play in healthcare. Come on, be real. You know what I mean? It's not happening. And then and they were just stressed. And for me, I thought I was offered roles to go back, where I'd just left, asked me to go back. And I thought, no, I've seen what you do to people. I'm not coming back. And I was out of it, but I wasn't. It's like I couldn't get away from it. I can run, but I can't hide.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think it's that's quite interesting, isn't it? As far as, because obviously during that time period there was this a lot of families it was putting the families at risk, but it was also needing people there at the time to care for these vulnerable adults and vulnerable people. So yeah, particularly challenging period. What do you think is because I've always felt that, like, being a care home manager, there is so many people that are relying on a care home manager, as well as carers who do an amazing job, support workers who do an amazing job. But somebody who runs an organisation like that, they've got all these different pressures coming from every angle. You've got CQC requiring certain boxes to be ticked and certain standards and certain quality and all the legalities. You've then got all the other legalities as well, just the basic laws of health and safety and stuff like that. You've then got the staff that are hyper reliant on that manager kind of managing the culture and rotoring and everything like that. And some homes are big and challenging as far as that's concerned. And you've got, because it's a 24-hour thing, as you mentioned, it's night, it's day, it's, and you've got multiple roles within that. And then you've got the actual individuals they're trying to care for and making sure that they're okay. And then you've also got the families of those who are being cared for that are also going to kind of want to be supported and going to have opinions and stuff like that. So it sounds like a real... I wouldn't rush to it. Let's say that. I said, go do nails.
Yeah, because you get safeguarding complaints. Like you say, there's so many looking at them, but they're one person in the middle. And then you've got all these things. I mean, most people have an employer, and if you're a manager, you have your employer, and you have people that want to be managers type thing, and your staff. These have, like you say, all these other people looking at them, but they also have a legal responsibility 24 hours a day. So if I'm sat here and I'm a care home manager speaking to you, somebody falls and breaks their neck in my care home, I've not done the training, I've not done the staff rotas right, the skill mix isn't right, somebody went off sick and I didn't replace that member of staff, and it can be put down to that. I can go to jail for corporate manslaughter. Now, that to me is a massive thing for anyone to take on if you don't realise it. And I've learned this through my experience. Like I said, 25 years ago now, I fell into it by just sitting in, because I was being kind, because I'm a kind person and I like to help. Well, yeah, you don't go to jail for helping. It's just not that. So, yeah, and they don't stop. Do you know what I mean? They all these external bodies put more pressure on, and, then it puts pressure on other people in the organisation. So, and it comes to the manager, there's times where you think, my great nephew's wedding, the night before, I actually left work at 8:30 in Wales, drove home, and luckily caught Marks and Spencer's before they closed to buy an outfit for 11 o'clock the next morning. And when I got up this morning, I didn't even know if it fit, whether it suited me. I didn't care. It was because that was what you had to do. You had to stay for the people. And it's an emotional thing. It's reliant on people and their strengths and their emotions. And if they're not resilient, it's shocking. A care homes with 6 managers in 12 months. Well, what's that about? Seriously. You get a change in any job role. It's like going on to a different partner every 6 weeks. Or every 3 months. It changes everything. And the culture's changed. The tail starts to wag the dog and nobody knows what's going on anymore. And I just think, well, that manager's like that. And I've asked one of our regulators or the regulator about this. And I said, you want it well led, safe, responsive, so on. Then how can you expect that to happen if you're not looking after the manager? If that manager in that office doesn't know if it's Saturday or Sainsbury's, they're not going to deliver them goods. They can't. So if you want to make sure it's okay, support the manager. And if you Google care home manager wellbeing, it tells you so much about that one person can look after all the others.
Yeah. There's a principle, obviously, the nature of our podcast, Able to Care, and we deliver this, or as Able Training, the company that I run, we deliver training in lots of different kind of areas and stuff. And one of the things that there is some sectors that are far better than others as far as that personal care, self-care. So within the foster care world, for instance, obviously foster carers are individuals 24/7. It's, but there's so much focus, or should be, again, they need sometimes reminding, for that self-care, that it's priority. For you to be able to care for anybody else, you must, your bucket of well-being must be at its maximum. If you're constantly trying to fill everybody else's and make sure everybody else is okay, but you haven't made sure yours okay, you're always working at a deficit. So making sure that's full. But that's a really hard thing to do, isn't it? Of kind of being able to put yourself first. And I think it's whether you're a care home manager or, let's say, a family carer as well. It's that sometimes walking away or turning the phone off. I mean, you can't really turn the phone off when you've got that responsibility all the time, haven't you? But finding those moments to go, it's not on me today. Definitely.
And the times when you can't actually put it down and you have got, your back's against the wall and you're struggling, just to have an outlet, really. And I know so many people say to me, there's no need for what you're doing, love, because we've got HR, occupational health, and employee assistance line. And I said, fine, I'm proactive, not reactive. Thanks. That's obvious. So, yeah, first, fostering, I take that off that. I could not do that. That is massively, massively precious to be able to do that. It's such a wonderful thing and need around anything. But, I just think, like with managers as well, we've got broken people, worn out, tired, stressed people looking after the lives, not just of the staff, but the business needs, but more importantly, the vulnerable of our society, which is right.
Yeah, 100%. So what would be your best tips and tricks then for a manager to help prevent burnout?
Well, for me personally, I would say to make sure that from the day dot word go, you get a good induction. That's why I want to work along managers on their induction process, to look at how to balance things. You're doing so much for this. Where's the important bits in the audits? Make sure that you are looking at the right things, checking the right things. And the first thing I do on my new course is an awareness of how did you come into management, accidental manager or intentional manager, because they both have pits and troughs and, up and down. So they look at the gaps and the knowledge and look at the gaps in your emotions. If you've got problems yourself, you need to be dealing with them. You cannot go in if you're stressed and worried about something else. We need to put the person back into the manager, back into the role as the human. We need to be looking after the human. So I would say get that balance yourself. And if you can't get it, speak up, find somebody. The world's full of people that are there for you. find somebody and take your time. It doesn't have to be everything. You can actually have self-care just in work by stopping, closing your eyes and breathing just for a minute, just a minute. You don't need a day off or all that, you know what I mean? And take time through the day, make sure you're eating. Don't be doing what I was doing, eating while you're driving, eating, on your computer. You just don't do them things. Put your boundaries up and say, this is what I'm doing. I mean, some homes are great. Some managers work 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, run it perfectly. Great. And well done. But there's a lot, especially in stress rundown places and some of the big cities that are really struggling. And it's just taking that time. And sometimes I'm an NLP master practitioner, so I can give them tips and tricks to do, just like having an anchor. You press your finger and thumb when you've been through a process, and then if you're stressing, just do that, and nobody else can see it, but your body knows, yourself knows that, hang on, yeah, right, calm me down. And it's all about things like that. Do something different. And sometimes just get out, walk out the door, walk around the car park and go back in. Believe me, it makes a difference. So, yeah.
That's great advice. I think that's the thing, isn't it? When we refer to things like self-care, people do tend to think, I ain't got time for that. It's the most common excuse you tend to get. And I think I'm a big believer as well that what you focus on is what you see. So, and there is actual brain evidence for this as far as the certain parts of the brain. If you're thinking about, I'm too busy, I can't, all you see is too busy. Mm-hmm. Whereas a case of, if I'm setting boundaries, as you said, that taking a few deep breaths at your desk doesn't feel like it's going to make much of a difference. But I think there's so many people who do work in care situations, and again, whether it be paid, unpaid carers, whatever, they don't breathe. They're just kind of going through the day, kind of going autopilot. And there isn't that moment they just stop and just go, unless they've got a cigarette in their mouth. And that's
yeah. And the thing is, when the manager does that, I mean, I've had times and especially in like staff meetings and things, and I'd say, right, okay, I mean, I do wacky stuff. I've got like index cards like this, and I'd take one in and I'd say, tell you what, we'll pull a card for today. And, just there you go. And it'd be something like movement, just stretch, just move, just wriggle. And they'd be like, she's nuts. Well, I don't mind that. I don't mind think I'm nuts. It's fine, probably am. But yeah, well, I am wacky because I've got the new side and it does help. But if you don't take time for your health, you've got to take time for your illness.
It's a case of all work and no play, isn't it? It's a very old proverb, but it is so true. And just doing little things like that in a staff meeting, of having a bit of a laugh with a card or doing something a bit unusual, just breaks the tension a little bit. So do you think there's certain things, though, that, because one of the posts that, the reason we connected, I saw a post online that you put, and it was something that I felt quite important for me. I'm run my own businesses and work very hard for the well-being of my staff. But I do try and get over to people when I'm teaching courses that management isn't a one-way process, that, if you've got a supportive culture, then it can make a huge difference. So, what is it? Because I think that's a misconception, isn't it? The manager should take all responsibility. What do you ever kind of do any training around staff, or what can staff do to help the manager?
I think for a manager to be seen as part of the team breaks that down. I used to say manage by walking about. Plan 40% of your time because the other 60 will plan itself. And when you've done what you need to do, get out and about. Tell your staff to take your time and say, 9 till 10:30, don't knock on the door unless it's a fire or safeguarding CQC. That's it. Tell them when they can disturb you. And other than that, go out there and be with them. Get to know them. I used to do Chocolate Friday. I'd just get a load of bars at different packets, you get 4 in a pack, I get a load of them, put them all in a carrier bag, and the administrator would walk around on a Friday and give them out. So the staff in every home I've ever been in will say, I want Norma with Chocolate Friday, and it's been real, some managers march around in the suit with a clipboard and don't care and bark at staff and, behave, you go and sit down, say, making a brew, and the one thing I've always done is stay out the staff room though. Stay out the staff room. And if they say you never come for a brew, I always used to say that's where you go to moan about me. Because that's the only you moan about me. And, and say thank you and be there for them. The number of care homes that night staff have never set eyes on a manager is unreal. And yet the 50% more service. So it's real. I go in and see them. You can go in later in the day as a manager. You don't have to be 9 till 5, whatever. You can go in, stay till 10. But just now and again, so they see you, they know you're human, and they'll turn up then to meetings, they'll come to you with problems, they'll turn up for supervisions. Ask their opinion, include them in decisions that you're doing in the home. We're going to be redecorating, what do you think? Not we're having this and that. They're the ones at the coalface doing it. And include your other staff, include your ancillary staff, include your maintenance guy, because they're the people, I've had maintenance men that come to me and they'll say, Molly's not so good today. She's been upset. Her husband died 50 years ago today and she's breaking her heart. And I'd be like, oh, right, I didn't know that. But they've told him while he was fitting a socket and said, my husband used to do that. He died 50 years ago today. And it's that conversation they're having that as a manager you don't see anymore. You probably actually, I used to miss it. I used to still go and sit and help with dinners and stuff, you know what I mean? Because that's what I was in it for. Sometimes I'd actually go, do you know what, manager hat off. I'm going back out there and I'm going to do a day on the floor to put it back in me, the fire back in me of this is why I did it in the first place. Because it's an honour to look after elderly people, isn't it? Or to look after anybody. Their whole being is in your hands and there's so much to it, So,
yeah, well, I always sort of said that sometimes the domestics have the best relationships with the residents, because it's kind of a thing that a lot of care staff don't understand. It's because they're never telling them to do anything. They're never telling them what to do. They're just going and chat to them. That's it. So,
what is time, isn't it? We have two things in life: health and time. And if you don't look after your health, well, that is in your control to an extent, isn't it? Until we get a pandemic. But with your time, it's just. I mean, Mother's Day's just been. I've got 3 gorgeous lads. I don't really want loads of presents off my kids. I'm not bothered. But they come and have a cup of tea and a chat, and we have a laugh, and they go. And I'm happy as anything. You can't buy anything in this world that can replace that. And as they get older and they become be physically infirm, or they've got dementia and they can feel the vibes, they can feel that you're there, you're holding the hands, that human connection. That's when it matters most, isn't it? Like you say, domestics and maintenance, even kitchen staff, they're great staff. They bring cake and everything, don't they? You know what I mean? They're better than everyone, aren't they? The residents. But care staff are pushed to the limit. They're the ones that, I've done things for staff where I brought an extra a bank staff member in when we've been fully staffed, and then they've come in and they've said, oh, there's no one off today. Oh, I'll go home then. No, stay. Go around the units. Oh, do you want me to sit with the residents? No, I want you to go and give everyone an extra 10-minute break today. I go and say, it's your turn now, and just fill in for them. And then they've got more energy to do. But spending time with people is the most, isn't it?
Mm. Yeah, I think there's many care staff that do get frustrated sometimes as well, isn't there? Because it does feel, as you said, there's so many boxes to tick, it feels like. And that demonstration of we're writing everything down as we should takes so much time that it takes away the time to actually engage and connect and the meaning of engagement side. I do, so my specialism is around behaviour management and stuff. And I often try and get over to people that if you are dealing with a challenge of behaviour, or a behaviour that challenges, if you're going in because they won't engage with this, going with 2 aims, not just to do that action or to do that activity or that job, also going with the aim of, or just connect with them. Yeah. And even if you don't get one, hopefully you come out with the other. And if it doesn't feel like, because there's so many staff that think, I failed, I didn't manage to get to do it, I couldn't do this. And that's the wrong mentality, because you went in, you just engaged, you cared for it. It's a person-centered care rather than the task focus, isn't it? Yeah, that makes a big difference. Yeah. And I think that starts from the top though, isn't it? It's a culture of the manager kind of spreading that out to the organisation. Yeah. As you said, it sounds like, I love that little tip, by the way, with the bank staff and stuff like that. Just stick around. We'll use you. Don't worry, we can definitely make use of your time. We haven't got enough staff most of the time anyway. So, yeah, that's lovely.
There's lots you can do, really, that are quick wins that just make people feel better. And to be honest, care people, you find that they do just want a bit of love. They do want a bit of nurturing. They do need the time element. And they go a long way on the little. Do you know what I mean? They really do. And when they rush in and they're rushing in and they're stressing, it's just too much. You're going in, I've got to go and wash and dress and feed, and they're tasks. Go in and care, just care. Yeah. And if you were caring for somebody, you'd make sure they were clean. You would make sure that they eat right. You would make sure that the room's right. But I've worked in homes where people have walked around and they've gone, oh, the beds aren't made, and I've gone, good, means you've had time with the residents, and they go, oh, that's a good thing.
Lovely.
That made, yeah, and somebody don't want to get dressed today. She wants a dinner on her knee. And if you were at home on a Saturday morning, what would you be doing? Think about reality, the real life. Don't be giving me all this, my home's this, that, and the other. It might be. And you see wonderful homes. You go through LinkedIn, you could do it right now and see all these, we've done this, we've trained this, we've had that. Brilliant. How many pressure cells you got? How many staff have got this month? It's a snapshot like that for a picture, isn't it? What's the reality behind it? And it's just me on my soapbox, isn't it, Andy?
That's right. We need people like you on your soapbox. That's it, 100%.
Forever.
Yeah, I think I don't know whether you found as well that I completely understand that care does have to be a commercial enterprise, because otherwise people wouldn't do it. You wouldn't buy a care home if you couldn't then earn a living for yourself through running that care home. But it's also find that balance that it's looking at the long term rather than the short term. That yes, okay, having an extra member of staff on shift might cost me a little bit more money on a week to week basis, but actually the quality of care significantly improves. The actual resilience of the rest of the staff improves, so then we get a lower staff turnover. Those better trained staff, so I'm spending less money on recruitment, less money on training, less money on with staff being off work, sick or ill, and bank staff that we're having to pull in to kind of cover, or agency staff and stuff like that. So it's that short term, it's going to cost you a little bit more. Long term, it'll save you. It'll improve the quality of your practice. It'll improve your CQC ratings and everything like that help earn you money. But it's that short term. And I think that's a real challenge. I don't know whether you've encountered that at all.
Yeah, for me, the retention of the manager is the solution to that. The retention of the manager, so they really get to know the service, they know the people, the external providers, the staff's relatives. The staff know where they stand, they know what they can and can't do, and then that stops being an issue, because every time you get that turnover of a manager, you do all your lovely marketing, costs you a fortune. You're getting all this money in through the front door because you've got whatever, and then it's going out the back door because it's on recruiting your manager again, and your reputation's nosediving. It's just not right. So I would say look for the right manager and keep them by looking at them as a person. It's not difficult. It's not rocket science.
Do you think managers get enough training? Care home managers get enough training?
Training sometimes, to be honest.
Okay.
Sometimes they get the right training. They get shown, like on an induction, there's one care company that has 93 modules of e-learning to do in 3 months of starting. Where do you get the time for that? When you've not even met your clients yet. You know what I mean? You've not even met your clients. You've not met your staff. You've not had any time with them. I mean, I literally used to walk in a care room, first day in a care room, I'd walk in, put my bags down, and they say, do you want this? I say, no, I'm fine. Just walk around, morning, who are you, what are you, this and that, how are you? And they'd be like, oh, somebody's walking around. And it's really strange. These people should try it. It's really, really good. But yeah, I think that retention of a manager is essential to any business is the same, isn't it? But for the manager, it's and sometimes they use managers, a bit off the subject now, still care. They just use people to fill a gap. I mean, I was driving once to a care home to interview a lady. There's only one turned up for the job role of manager, and they'd had about 5 managers in 18 months, and the local authorities were getting a bit twitchy, and they wanted somebody in the seat, basically. And I was told by a managing director of a certain company to just employ her. No matter what she's like, take her on. I said, no one. Because it's her career, it's her CV. If she's knowledge and the experience for it, fine. It's a problem home. I'm not putting somebody in that chair to shut the local authorities up. You're a big company. You shut them up and I'll employ the right person for you. But morally, I'm not doing it. So
I suppose there's two sides to that, isn't there? As far as the morality towards the residents and towards the actual care home itself, going the wrong person in the wrong job isn't good. But as you said, it's also their career. So if it's past their skills and ability and knowledge, they might thrive, but it might actually ruin their entire career from taking this care home and not being able to cope with it and going down. So yeah, that's a really interesting kind of view on that, Norma.
Yeah, you've got to have something there as a manager. It's a very strong job. It's no... Sorry, so just at the memory there. I was speaking to somebody the other day. They talk now about bringing overseas managers in to run our care homes, and I'm thinking of these beautiful, beautiful Filipino people that come over here, absolutely fantastic, and they have got salt the earth, a lovely culture, and they put them in some of the care homes that I've worked in. Well, I think they'll be running home, and it's shocking. It's shocking that just fill a gap, shut people up. No, do the right thing. Do the right thing as hard as it can be today to do it right tomorrow. And tomorrow you won't have to do it again. And, there's managers out there that's been in care homes for 22 years. Absolutely fabulous. I worked with one. She'd been in this care home for 22 years. I went in one day. They'd had a, operational change. The woman was sobbing her heart out, can't cope anymore. I'm useless, and retired. And I thought, what a way to end your career in the same home you've been in due to changes, but not just changes. Change has to happen, but the management of that change. It was like it with a big stick, get it done by close of play. It doesn't work.
Thank you for listening to the Able to Care podcast. If you're enjoying this episode, please like, comment, and share. We really appreciate all of you listeners. Yeah, that's it. Again, if it's all on a hierarchy. If the powers that be are kind of task focused, then suddenly that's when they're forcing others to be task focused, and that'll just trickle down a little bit, won't it? Yeah, definitely.
They're pushing against a wall of love and care and nurturing, which is what gets somebody into care. You don't. I mean, some people do intentionally go into care to become a manager, and I'm going to run that home. And as soon as they go in, they don't understand why the staff are crying when somebody's died, or somebody's not well, and they just don't understand that side of it. And that's why they need to fill them gaps, acknowledge them, be self-aware, and acknowledge some things in yourself, and go, I am missing that. So we'll find it out. Where do you go to?
Right. It's really interesting. So, do you think? Obviously, I think the managers impact on the culture of the home significantly. Obviously, it's culture of a home. The way we do things here is impacted not just by the manager; it's also then by the staff and by the residents as well. That they all impact on how that kind of culture is. You've mentioned a few things already, but what can managers do, or what do managers do to kind of promote genuine connections with the residents that they're supporting, and for the staff to build genuine connections?
Well, first off, that they're literally up against the time element. Everyone's got to be done for this. Everyone's, just relax your culture. Not everyone has to eat at 8:00. Not everyone has to have dinner at 12. Relax. Give the staff some autonomy. Trust your staff. Train them. Have faith in them. Listen to them. When they knock on the door and say, because eventually you can get to your staff, once you work with them enough, that you'll get them to a stage where they'll go, Norma needs to know that. And they'll come and you'll listen to them, because they've not just come with every problem anymore. So tell them and value them. I mean, I first, like I say, you start in a new home and I've got a problem, and I go, oh, I only do solutions. And they'd be like, oh, okay. So what's your solution to your problem? Is it something you can do? Well, I don't know if I can. And then you talk to them, talk them through it. Well, what would you do? Well, I'd just do that and that. Well, you had the answer, so don't come to me if you've got the answer. I trust you to have the answer. You're an adult and you're in employment. So run along and do what you know what's right. Do what's right and good, and just do it. And they find, and once they know they can do it, they'll be like, oh yeah, I'm actually doing that. And then they become more honest and more open. And then when they do make a mistake, they'll come and say, I've just made a mistake. Even if it's the wrong medication, or I didn't fill a chart out or something. And it takes away that threat of, this hierarchy and stuff like that. I mean, it's home care, and it's a home. It's not a care house. Yeah. It's not a house. It's a care home.
Yeah. I suppose one of the cultures I have come across, and I'm sure you've encountered it as well, is a kind of. Well, a prime example of this is where you'll sometimes get the kind of click between day staff and night staff. So it's a case of, day staff are kind of, well, I kind of tell staff this when I'm teaching them sometimes. So when night shift go home at the end, this is a conversation a day shift will sometimes have. What a night shift been doing? They've been sat around sleeping, I reckon, because they haven't got this done. But then the same thing happens when night shift take over, they're going, they don't think we do anything at night. They've left us this to do, this to do, this to do. It's ridiculous. And it's that. So suddenly then you get people rushing and becoming task focused because it's a case of, I better get this done, otherwise night staff will be kicking off. Yeah. And it's that, as you just described there, it's that relaxing that culture, isn't it? The taking away the blame and shame of it, because this care is a 24/7 thing. It's a constantly circular thing. It never starts, it never stops. It's constantly ongoing. But I think that's a really hard thing to overcome in a culture, isn't it?
Yeah, and well, to me, for say something like the night staff come in and there's, the day staff are putting everyone to bed for the night staff. That's a very old school thing in care homes from years ago. Everyone has to be in bed by 9. No, they don't. And as a manager, I'd be there, and and I'd get some put a film on and a few residents up to watch the film, and say to the staff, when everyone's done, they want to watch this film, so sit and watch it with them. You can do the cleaning when they've gone to bed, and it doesn't matter. We all leave stuff at home, don't we, till the next day? Dishes, washing, hoovering. We don't do everything before we go to bed. So why should we do it in their home? Why does it always have to be? Fine, it has to be clean because infections, but it doesn't have to be this thing. Some of the people we're looking after grew up with coal sheds, coal fires, scrubbing steps and stuff like that. They didn't grow up with all this, things that they give them now to do, and serviettes on every table, and just let them be themselves. And with the staff, this day staff, night staff culture thing, when there'd be a lot you have to empty the skips, you have to make sure the linen's ready, you have to set the trolley up for the night staff. Well, that's an ongoing trolley, and it doesn't need to be set up for anybody. Just when you finish what you're doing, refill it for the next person, not night staff, day staff, just for the next person. Because if you've done that at 7, you might need to be doing something before 8. So set it up, and it's respect, it's kind, it's caring for your colleagues, it's making sure that they can come in to a good standard, and to make sure, and when you're getting them to do it to support them, you're supporting your colleagues by making sure it's set up, then fine. And be curious. Why do they work nights then? Why do you work days? I work nights because I was a single parent, and I wanted to be there for my boys in the day. So that's why I started on nights. Do you know what I mean? Your people are doing nights for a different reason. We're not animals in the beginning. I always say,
not vampires.
Get to 3 o'clock in the morning, you're like, oh God. And they just don't appreciate it. But it's just literally support your colleagues. And some people do, right, we're going to change, and we're going to put you on nights for 3 weeks and put you on days for so long. Don't play games with the staff. You know what I mean?
No.
They've got families. Don't play games with staff like that. It's ridiculous. And do things for night and day staff. Do training, do adventure things, have a staff day, an activity day, things like that. Encourage the night staff to call in the day and see people and build. It's I just wonder how can I help these people that are coming in next.
It's building a sense of community, isn't it, I suppose, rather than a workplace, because it is, as you said, it is a care home. So it's individuals. Like if you were going into somebody's house, if you were going into somebody's house or a home, you would sort of be much more conversational, much more kind of supportive and stuff like that, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
There was one thing that you mentioned there, though, and I think it's worthwhile kind of then addressing. You said about, it doesn't matter if that's not done. It doesn't matter if that. I think sometimes there feels this pressure, though, doesn't there, as far as what if the family turn up at that moment where we haven't got that done, or the CQC turn up at that moment we haven't got that done, and how it then reflects. What's your advice on that front?
For me, take the family first is when you bring a resident into the home, you're bringing a family into the home. It's not just the person. So you have to actually explain it, especially if it's dementia. This is what is probably going to happen. These are the outcomes. They might come in with odd slippers on one day. They might not want the hair comb that day. We are going to go with the flow. You decide on your culture for that home, and you tell them. And you can actually say, this is what may happen. So before admission, are you accepting that this is a conversation that we've got to have? We will always be open and honest with you. We will always be transparent, and we will do the best we can. But there's going to be times when it looks dreadful. And we will explain it to you, because it's distressing for them to come in and suddenly find their loved ones in a state. My dad was in a hospice. He had cerebral metastases, and he was scrubbing the floors one day when I went in with 3 young lads, and he thought he was back in the latrines in the war. To me, I obviously had a nursing background, but I was like, okay, boys, Granddad's busy, let's go. And they never saw him again. But I knew about that. I was aware of it. If they're not aware, then you're doing that to my family. You're neglecting them. You're doing, and then you're in these words. You are, and it's not me. It's how it is. So don't take it seriously, sort of thing. But do explain to them that the what can happen, and get them involved. If you know that they're going to come in every morning at 9 o'clock, well, don't make that there's so many people living here. Your mum, dad, husband, whatever. The priority when the priority, we're not going to make sure it's nice. We're not here to doll it up for you. Do you know what I mean? We're not here for that. Where CQC are concerned, am I meeting the regulations? Am I meeting your requirements? I've had an inspector tell me in my very first job 25 years ago, everyone should have white bath towels. What? So passing them their own book and the care standards, there you go. If you can show me in there where it is, I'll make it happen this afternoon. Otherwise, I'm sorry, but let's see. Towels are clean. They've all got one. Behave. You know what I mean? And you don't have to but you have to be knowledgeable and assertive and stand your ground, So the reams isn't done. But then on the other hand, I've had really good inspectors where they come in and, you say, the staff will go, I've not managed, and they go, well, that's a good thing, isn't it? Because they have the similar outlook as me. So just depends who you get, doesn't it? But remember, to regulate you, they're not your employer.
Yeah, 100%. I think what you said there as well is like being knowledgeable, knowing what your actual requirements and standards are is hugely important, isn't it? Because it's a case of, I've always find that with when I'm teaching things like Mental Capacity Act, for instance, and stuff like that, if you're making choices on behalf of others, you need to know that like the back of your hand, because that's not just a protection for them, it's also a protection for you. If you understand the Mental Capacity Act, kind of know if I'm making a decision, it's best interests, I've given them a minute. So this is where then you sometimes have to educate family. They might go, well, why is that not the same as it always has been? Because that's no longer in your loved one best interests, and we've done this assessment, and this is why we're doing it this particular way. I understand it being really hard for family, but I think, so for me, what you mentioned there as well, that it's almost like onboarding for the family, isn't it? Kind of like this is our culture. This is what we do here. This is how we do it. We need you to understand why we do it, because this is going to get the best outcomes for your loved ones. I'll give you an example. You may have encountered this. Like, I've seen family getting upset because they see another resident wearing one of their parents' clothing, for instance, and then they kind of make this, why aren't you making sure that my mum has her stuff and other people are taking her stuff, and that's not fair? And it's like, well, if you really look at it, your mum probably doesn't notice. She doesn't care. It's a you problem, not a her problem. But also, this is a dementia home. That wouldn't be the staff not doing their job properly. That lady might have come into the room, decided she liked that cardigan and wandered off with it. And we can't monitor them 24/7. It happens.
It's just
we accept it.
Clear. It's making it clear on the onset that these are the things that can happen, even with physical things, but definitely with dementias. And, as we're speaking here, Andy, I'm thinking, well, where is the training for families then? Why are we not saying, I'm putting this training on Mental Capacity Act training, best interests. If you want to come along, then come and sit in and come and listen to what we're up against. And then there won't be this, us and them, because it's like little pockets in it of everything. It's like, there's the manager, that's CQC, that's the relatives, and it's all a flow. Do you know what I mean? It's all a flow, isn't it? And we have to get some flow in there. We need the energies to be so that everyone's included, and meetings and stuff like that. I mean, some things obviously you don't disclose in things, it's confidential. But for training, they could have support. Perhaps every home should have a family support unit where they have a meeting once a week, come along and do what you like. But it's not a bitch fest. We're not just going to sit and moan about everybody. We're actually going to be proactive.
I think that's across the whole care sector, and even in education as well. I think it's, creating that collaboration. That I think it's easy to fall into the trap going, I want what's best for my family member from the family, but the carers, they're wanting what's best for that family member as well. They're not doing it to be mean or harsh or non-caring, but it could be two opposite sides of the same coin, just from different points of view or different perspectives and things like that. So I think, that collaboration, and that's the same you get in schools with children, where it's a case of, teachers are still wanting the best for the child, but the parents going, yeah, but my child, and they feel they clash rather than collaborative and working together.
Well, that's it, because no one's coming to the table to be mean and evil. Do you know what I mean? We're all there wanting what we as us with our experiences think's the best thing. And what, we might have one person, even a mum and dad and a child, we both think different, that they need this, no, they need this, and then start bickering. Well, if you expand that to a 100-bedded care home with relative CQC staff and God knows what, you've got so many opinions in that bag. So your bottom line of policies, procedures, structure, systems, processes needs to be firmly in there, and then put the personality on the top. But the roots of it has to be nurturing, caring and love at the beginning of it, before any of that, because it won't stand up. If you don't put them foundations in, you're building on sand. There's no point.
So yeah, I think what you said there is right. I'm a big believer in education. Obviously, as a trainer, yeah, of course, that's it's how I earn my living. But we've tried to do things before. We do a lot of work with a major dementia charity and trying to educate family members. So, because I think it can really contribute to reducing distress, and I think it would be so useful for any care setting, but also family members. If your loved one has got any medical condition or whether it is dementia, then try and understand about it. So that then what I've seen in some homes as well, and I find it sad that this is where they can pass on a little bit of support, that the family can help the care staff as well.
Yeah.
But I often see families sitting there with their loved one and they don't know what to do. They don't know what to say. They don't know how to engage because mum or dad is no longer conversational and they're repeating the same thing over and over again. So the family member just gets frustrated rather than going, hey, so here's things you can do. And even just like a tips and tricks sheet or something like that family could be given to kind of go, try this, try this, try this. Don't just try and have a conversation asking, what did you have for breakfast? When they don't remember what they had for breakfast and you've now just caused them to be upset because they couldn't remember.
That's it. I mean, when you get to the different stages, as in with dementia, like you get to different stages that you can just pass. Say when they can't get up anymore, they're physically unable to move and they're in bed all the time, you can give them like hand cream and say, just put hand cream on, or comb the hair a bit today, or just sit and read next to them because they can feel that you're there. Our senses are there. We can feel it. You don't need to be constantly talking at them, and not to them, but at them, because that they'd be like, oh. I mean, inside thinking, gosh, yes, but it's hopefully, because it's not like what you learn first, you lose last with dementias, isn't it? You know what I mean? And if you point that out to them in a nice way and say, this is sort of where they are, they're recognising themselves when they're 80 now. You put a picture on the door of when they were 30. Oh, that's my room. And in they go. And then they don't recognise it now they're 20. And after a while, I don't mean to sound awful and bad when you say like the baby stage where they get to just, you need to make sure they're eating and getting changed and what have you, and, keeping them clean and dry and things. And the physical then outweigh the mental health needs because now they're not there. But there's still them things with a baby. You just pick a baby up and care for it. Just nurture it, just hug it, love it, be with it.
Yeah.
The time element comes back, like we were saying earlier, the time's back there, isn't it? Where they just want your time now. And that's all we can do. And we can do it the best way by, accepting that we are doing the best we can by doing nothing, perhaps. By being.
Yeah. And it's interesting, isn't it, that, if you stick somebody in a baby, most people typically know immediately how to communicate with the baby. They know immediately how to engage with the baby. They never had to be taught it. They never had to learn it. They just use facial expressions and eye contact and touch and noises and stuff like that. So mirroring and those sorts of things. And we know now that is also works for, as you said, what they come into the world with, they leave the world with. Same thing of just smiling, looking at, touching, mirroring and stuff like that. Exactly the same. But again, I think I understand why that being hard. If you don't know, you don't know. You're still trying to engage with a conversation going, I've lost her. No, you haven't. You've got this very special moment in your mum or dad's life that you never would have seen without this illness. You might get to hear about the nerves they had on their wedding day because I think that's the day it is today. And you almost join them on that day in that moment. I think that's a different way of looking at dementias that people don't think about.
I mean, it is hard. It is looking at the positive and then knowing that the relatives, that there's a space for them as well. So when they're under pressure, because they will, and they'll go home and feel guilty. But it's just saying, I used to say to mine, look, you're a human being, not human doing. Be human. Don't do human. We don't do human, we be human.
I like that. I haven't heard that before. I'm nicking that. That's going into my repertoire somewhere. Okay, so one thing I think would be useful for people to be aware of, do you know when you walk into a care home or kind of the first interactions with staff, do you get a feel for the culture from that, whether this is a good or this place needs some work? And what kind of signs can both staff, I suppose, and family members kind of look out for?
Before I go to any care home, I would ring the home to see, first off, do they answer the phone or not? And if they do, who's answering the phone? Because if it's daytime, you've got a manager, an administrator, a deputy, and God knows who else there, then why is the domestic answering the phone? In some ways, it's a good thing that anyone will answer the phone. But on the other side, then you need to make sure that message is getting to where it needs to be. So if I gave a domestic or a carer and said, could you manager ring me back as a person wanting to be employed there, and the manager didn't get it, then you think, well, communication's not that good. But it might just be the one person. It can't be everyone with the same thing, can you? It might just be the one person. But I just ring anyway to see, does it sound friendly? And then when you get there, there's obviously use your senses. Look for yourself. Is it run down? Is it beaten? I've been in some care homes with carpets that really need replacing and furniture that you think, where's that from? It's an antique and stuff like that. With the biggest amount of care, the most care and most love in that home ever. I've also been in ones where they've got the top range everything and you can't find a member of staff in 24 hours, you know what I mean? Because they're not there. Anyway, so I'd just go on your senses, see how you feel. Your gut feeling to me is never wrong. So if you go in and think, not for me, turn around, walk back out. As a relative go in, I would, again, use senses, go in, have a look, listen. Are you listening to happy sounds? Are you listening to a bit of music? Are you just listening to bingo and people wanting to be there? When you walk around at the chairs all around the walls like they used to be, or in the little groups where they can communicate, just is there any smells anywhere? Just literally you use your senses and basically, like I say, to me, my gut instinct is the most the first thing that I go on. Also, it's seeing how you get answered. So speak to the staff on the way around, see if they acknowledge you. Are they rushing around doing, or are they alone? And as a member of staff, go in and speak to the residents. When I interviewed, I used to walk, if I was taking somebody on, I used to walk them around after. I thought, if I thought these are going to be a good fit. And I'd see how they interacted with the residents. If they got down to their level and said, I'll pick that up for you. I think, yeah, you're for me. And if they just, like this, I'd be like, nope. So it's just, you know what I mean? What is it? But cultural-wise, people that are open and honest, you can spot them. We're just human, aren't we? We know who to move away from instinctively. So don't give that up. Do you know what I mean? Don't like I say, don't get fixed on the job at hand sort of thing, the title or the home. I need to get my mum and dad in somewhere. Just be more self-aware again, and use what we've got as a human to make sure that that we are getting the right place, because we don't want to keep changing it. We don't want to keep moving, and we don't want to start getting bitter and be making them changes in themselves. Because let's face it, when they go in, they very rarely come back out. They live outside again, do they? They go in and that's their last home. And guilt with relatives is a massive thing, and guilt with relatives is I've had to put them in there. Well, don't make them feel they're putting them in there. I've included them in that house up the road. They're now living in a lovely community, not been put in a home. Because now it's not so bad now. When I first started in care, they used to see it as workhouses. The elderly people, they put them in the workhouse because that's what they did in them generations. Now it's a lot different now, isn't it? It's a lot different, thankfully.
Yeah, there's a few homes I've been to where I've almost planned to book them a place because I'm like, this place is lovely. It's lush. I want a cinema room and a pub and it's amazing.
It's all right having that and waiter service, but if you're not up dressed with your tie and suit on at 8 o'clock in the morning, you're not getting fed. And then you'll have
there's a balance, isn't there? I want somewhere warm and lovely.
I think that's the word, isn't it? The word is balance, isn't it? Find the balance. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some lovely places. There was one I went to where they actually had a cafe, and the community used the cafe, but it being part of the care home, so I thought real nice. There were families with kids there, but there was also it's just that level of normalisation, that level of accessibility and stuff was just lovely to see. So I've booked my room there.
Fabulous. One of the nicest things I ever had support with to do was to do it. We only had 4 stalls, so it's not that impressive really. But we had a market every Thursday in the grounds of the home. But we actually did market outside, and we used to get the relatives to come and do the stalls. And there was cards, underwear, pajamas, a shoe stall with slippers, and then a sweet stall and cakes. So the families would say, "I'll be on that stall next week." We used to do it every fortnight, and they come around. I'll do it that day. I'll do it that day. And the staff would get the coats on and the umbrellas up if it was raining, and they'd go, "But we can't take it out, it's raining." I'd be like, "She made a sugar, she isn't going to melt, come on, get a coat, let's go." These people were walking miles through God knows what when they were young, and they loved it. They'd come in, they'd be, "Oh, love, here's a cup of tea," and they'd be like, "Oh, love, thank you," and you think, and sometimes they'd literally dress up, walk through the door, look, come back in, but they loved it because to them, that was far enough. They've been for a day out, they've been outside, did feel the elements on the face, because what do? We put them in a care home, and all of a sudden we're living at the same temperature forever. We haven't even got seasons anymore. Well, we have. So open the door and let them be cold, let them be warm, let them get wet in the rain, let them walk in the snow. Don't take it all away from them. They'll lose it soon enough. And doing that, that brings, oh yeah, they are real. My nan does that. My nan went to the market and people start thinking as people and not commodities type thing as human doings.
I love that. Absolutely love that, Norma. That was lovely there. I think there's such a level of risk aversity, isn't there? Like, oh, but we can't, and they'll survive it. Yeah, risk assess it and crack on. The benefits. It's forgetting the benefits is focus on the risk sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah, take the boxes, do the work, and get on with it. Crack on. Have the most fun you can.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, I think so. Hopefully, anybody listening to this can kind of go, right, we need a bit of Norma in our lives as far as let's get her in the home and let's get her kind of planning things. So, just to kind of draw us to a bit of a close, and because it's been absolutely amazing chatting with you, I could ask you lots more questions, I think, Norma. But so your company is called NS Care Consultancy.
It is, yeah.
Yes, okay. Have you got a website? Is it just that? Or?
Yeah, that's my website, ns-care.co.uk.
.co.uk, perfect. We'll put a link anyway, so I'll get the details. We'll get the link in the information and stuff, so people can find you. And yeah, it sounds like anybody out there, whether it be and do you do support? Is it just for managers that predominantly you do that support? Or?
My main thing is managers. But if what I do for the managers, if they want to pass it through the staff, that's fine with me. I'd help them do that. But my thing is managers because of all the reasons I've said. You know what I mean? It's they're the ones that their job is to care for everyone else. No one's job is to care for them. So I've taken that role.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. Is there anything else you wanted to add or anything at the end of this?
Yeah, there is a new program that, like I say, with all the experience I've had, the woo-woo stuff, the coaching, NLP and all that, I've put it all together now to bring the wellbeing program for care home managers, which is a bit of everything really. The program itself starts on the 3rd of April. I'm only having 9 places because I've looked after 9 managers before, so I know I can manage 9 managers and I want to ensure good quality. It's for a 90-minute call every Wednesday to start with. There'll be a community WhatsApp group for them 9 people so they can have a bit of peer support and access to me and I can see if they're okay. Through them 4 weeks. It's a 4-week program. They also can have their course content, which is going through the awareness, accidentally, whatever manager, like I said before, looking at their belief systems and their confidence levels and what they're missing to build them up to help them to become resilient and cope with stresses and unexpected things. I have 2 guest speakers lined up, but dates to be confirmed, people that are doing other things that can support care home managers. Because I don't think there's many doing what I'm doing at the moment. No. So hopefully, so they get the course content, they get the playbook, then there's no workbook because we've done enough work, so we're having a playbook. And that's it for then. It will grow, it will be different. There will be a bit of woo-woo stuff in there as well. Might even throw in a bit of my laughter yoga because I'm a laughter yoga facilitator as well.
Oh wow, right, okay, that's a whole other podcast, that is, Norma.
whole different world, another me. So it's everything really to bring a holistic manager in to run a holistic service.
I like that.
And that's basically
it's a quote there, that is. That's a tagline, that is. Holistic manager for a holistic home. Perfect. All right, fantastic.